Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Parshat Naso. Hope everyone had an inspiring Shavuot. So I have three pieces today. We'll start with the Emes Liyaakov from Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. And there's a strange order in the Parsha because last week we had discussing the responsibilities of the Kohanim in the traveling, what their responsibilities are with regards to dismantling and rebuilding the Mishkan. It started with Kahat, who is in the previous Parsha, and now the Parsha begins with Gershon, which is very strange, because Gershon is the Bechor, right? Why did we start with Kahat, right? So, here's the pasuk: Nasa et Rosh Bnei Gershon Gamheim. Also do Gershon, right? V'zeloshen hamedrash. He quotes a medrash. Davar acher yikara hi mipninim. It is more valuable than diamonds. The Gemara says, use that pasuk in halacha that a Talmid Chacham, Mamzer Talmid Chacham, a Talmid Chacham who is halachically a Mamzer is bigger than a Kohen Gadol Am Haaretz, than a Kohen Gadol who doesn't know how to learn, right? Because Torah is the premier thing. So Yikara Himi Pninim, because, right? So he says, even from the Pninim, the Gemara says, because he goes Pnim, he goes inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Kohen Gadol, but still the Talmud Chacham. But here he's saying it, that Midaber Bekahat V'Gershon, that Kahat is better than Gershon, who is the Bechor, right? Afal Pisha Gershon Bechor, even though Gershon is the firstborn son of Aaron, Matzinu Shebechol Korem, not Aaron, but the firstborn son, Shebechol Makom Chalak HaKavod. He was given Kahat was called first. Last week, right? What did Kahat do, right? Kavod lebechor lefisha haya Kahat to'en ha'aron, because Kahat's responsibility was to carry the Aron, the ark with the Torah in it, right? Tishnei luchot in it. Shesham haTorah, that's where the Torah is. So therefore, hikdimu hakatuv. So therefore, we had Kahat first. Now hikdimu hakatuv leGershon. Now Gershon. So therefore, he was before Gershon. Shebetchila. Amar Nasa et Rosh Bnei Kahat last week. Va'achar kach Omer Nasa et Rosh Bnei Gershon. Now it's Gershon. So that's why the order is reversed. Gershon the Bechor is mentioned second. Kahat the first, because he is carrying the Aron. So he is better than the diamond, meaning the Bechor, Gershon, Sheyotza Rishon. He went out first, right? V'kein ikum mikamayu va'akavel buhu igra nafak ata yanuka debeirav. So now, I skipped a line here. Okay, now, based on this, he wants to tell a story. He wants to explain something. There's a Gemara in Erevin. Rav Zera, ki haba chalish mi girsei, Rav Zera was sick. Now, Rav Zera was someone who probably learned Torah 18 hours a day, and he was sick, and he couldn't learn. So what did he do? Hava azel, he didn't go to Miami. Hava azel v'yasiva pitcha de Reb Yehuda Reb Yossi Bar Ami. He sat by the door of the Beis Medrash of Reb Yossi Bar Ami. Amar, he said, ki nafki, when the Talmidei Chachamim come out, and when Rebbe comes out, me'ayele Rabbanon eku mikamayu, I'll stand up for them. Va'kabel behu igra, and I'll receive reward, right? Because there are two dinim with the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. One mitzvah in the Taryag mitzvot is to learn Torah. The other element of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is to honor Talmidei Chachamim. So if I can't learn, right, at least let me sit there and I'll stand up for when the Talmud Chacham comes out, when all the Talmidim come out, I'll stand up for them. At least I'll get schar for something close to Torah, right? So what happened meanwhile? So while he was sitting there, Nafak ata yenuka de beirav. A child came out from Cheder, walked out. Amrle, Maya Gmacha Ravcha, what did your Rebbe teach you today? Amrle, Kishut Bore Pri Ha'adama. This is a Gemara in Brachot. If you eat the bracha on Kshut, on hops, is Bore Pri Ha'adama. Right? Chaziz, green fruit, Shahakol Niyeh Bidvaro. You say Shahakol, right? Amrle. What are you talking about? Your Rebbe's wrong. Other Rabbi, the other way around. Ibcha mistavra. It makes more sense the other way around. Hai me'ara, right? The green grain is adama. It comes from the ground. Ka marvi. So other Rabbi, ibcha mistavra. Hai me'ara. This one comes from the ground. And marvi v'hai me'avira marvi, and the hops were not planted; they're like sort of germinated from the air, right? Or they're on a little bit higher on some kind of a branch thing, right? V'hilchasa kiyanuka de beirav, but the halacha is according to this little child. Why? My timer. Hai Gemar Peri. This hops is the final product, right? And therefore it deserves the final product bracha. V'hai, but the green grain is not finished yet. Hai love Gemar Peri. So if you're going to eat it, you say a shahakol, right? So yidima kinafkiva. So. This is too small, so small here. I did it too small. It's hard for me to catch it. Okay. Okay, so what does this Gemara have to do with the point he wants to make? Okay. Uvdazu, this Maisa, this story, Milamadnu Ahavat HaTorah Shel Kadmonenu. First of all, we see the love of Torah that the Tanoim and Amoraim had. He could have done something else. He could have gone out and done chesed, right? He could have gone on done another mitzvah, right? So why did he do this? Something that doesn't require a lot of thought, right? He couldn't learn. He was sick, wwhatever. He had a headache, whatever. Share gam hikima kinafki va'ayil rabbanon gam kein torah haguf. To sit by the beis medrash, to stand up every time is also hard for him, right? Why do this? V'imkein ma ze mechapes v'toreach lekayem mitzvah zu shel kima v'hidur l'talmid chacham. So why was this the replacement activity to relax a little bit, right? El vadai. Shegam zeh chelik mitalmid Torah, because this is also part of Talmud Torah. If you can't learn, at least let me have a sniff, something to do with Talmud Torah, which is honoring the Talmud Chacham, right? Kedematzinu b'perakama de Megillah, the Gemara says in Megillah, the medame kavod Talmud Chacham leTalmud Torah. Giving honor to a Talmud Chacham is similar to learning Torah itself. V'dachinin de kavod Torah of the Yachid Chamor, right? And v'nimtza the Rabbi Zera be'emet gam az chipeis aleha b'Torah. He wanted Torah. Elisha iyun b'limud lo haya b'efshurato, but he couldn't concentrate that day. Lefichach lefachot hishtadel hitamek b'kavod Torah. So let me really go deep into the mitzvah of kavod Torah. I'm going to stand up for a couple of hundred talmidei chachamim who are going to come out of the beis medrash. D'zeu gam kein inyan chashuv. Right, lihitalot b'Torah, to stand up for Torah. Ukidin batzinu perakam demenachot, damrin and hosam, the Avimi mesechta isakrele. The Avimi loved his learning. V'asa lekamei de Rebbe, but he had a problem. He had a shaila. Isakrele. He had a shaila. He had a shaila in the Gemara. He didn't understand the Gemara. So what did he do? V'asa lekamei de Rav Chizda. He went to Rav Chizda, his student. La'ad kure Gemara, to remind him about the Gemara, to tell him what the Gemara said. Umakshina, and the Gemara asked, The Gemara asks over there, Yishlach le Rabbi Chanina v'leisi legabe. Let him send somebody to bring his Talmud to him instead of him going to him. Umishani, the Gemara answered, Savar hachi mistaya milsa tfei. Right? What is this? This is the proper way to do it. Why? Pirush Rashi explains, Mishum yagati matzati. You have to make an effort. Right? The Gemara in Megillah says, Yagata Metzad. If a person says, if I didn't try to do something, it's not going to happen. But Yagata Metzad, if you make an effort, you're going to be successful. V'zeu lefi aniyas daiti ha'inyan shel kavod HaTorah. This is kavod HaTorah. This is what he was doing. Ve'efshar d'zeu atam shel mikol melamda hiskalti. The Gemara says, mikol melamda. The pasuk says, mikol melamda hiskalti. I've learned from everybody. Right? Kilomar, sha'ahuv lo kol inyan torani. Anything that has to do with the Torah, ad shu holech etzel katan mimenu, to the point that he went to his student, right? Ulefichach amar Razal, the rabbis say in Pirkei Avot, shafilu lamud mimenu perek echad, even if you learn one chapter from somebody, o halacha achat, or one halacha, tzarech linhon lo kavod, right? The Rambam actually says this in Hilchos Talmud Torah. He talks about the obligation to study, to teach Torah, right? So, to mitzvah of Talmud Torah is al kol chacham v'chacham, right? L'lamed Torah, right? So what does the Rambam say? Kol chacham, every chacham and every chacham. This is very unusual, by the way. The Rambam, there's never a repeated word. If the Rambam is saying a repetition like this, there's a minefield here. So what is the Rambam saying when he says every chacham has the responsibility to teach Torah, right? Because you would think, everyone will learn in person, right? Maybe I don't want to learn, right? In fact, let me just digress a minute for an idea from the Vilna Gaon. It says in the Aseret HaDibrot, which we just learned on Shavuos, Lo tirtzach, you shall not kill, right? But in the Aseret HaDibrot that we have in Vet Chanan, and the Aseret HaDibrot we have earlier, there's a minor difference. Lo tirtzach in one place is written with a patach, lo tirtzach, and the other place is written with a kamatz, the kamatz, right? Lo tirtzach, right? Which, by the way, not only in Ashkenaz, there's a tradition in Sfard also to be makbid on the kamatz as well. But okay, so why is that? So the Vilna Gaon says a brilliant thing, that the mitzvah is to teach Torah, right? Sometimes a patach is a ptichat hapeh, the opening. Sometimes someone who's not on the level of being a chacham and starts to teach, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's going to distort Torah for people, that's murdering in a spiritual sense with a ptichat hapeh, with a patach, right? Then there's a person with a kamatz. A kamatz is a closed mouth, kmitzat hapeh, right? There's a person who is a Talmid Chacham, but he doesn't share his Torah with other people. He is killing Jews with a kmitzat hapeh, with a closed mouth, right? So the Rambam brings, that's the Vilna Gaon, but the Rambam brings the halacha, mitzvah al kol chacham v'chacham l'lamed et kol et ha-talmidim, to teach the students. So why does he repeat it? So really, the Rambam is telling you this. Even if all you know is Aleph Beit. You know Aleph Beit, you don't know anything else. If you have an obligation to share that Aleph Beit with another Jew, that's the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Everybody's a chacham. If you know one thing, you're a chacham. In that prat, you're a chacham. And that's what he points out here. V'lomar she'ahuv lo kol inyan torani ad shehu olech etzal katan mimenu. Therefore, the rabbis say again, shafilu lamad mimenu perek echad o halach achat tzarech linhog bo kavod. You learned. This was your grade 1 teacher, right? I remember, actually, this goes back quite a few years. My oldest son, who's now I think 57. I think he's going to be 58. I don't know, maybe he's 57, something like that. Anyway, I came to visit him when he was learning here in Eretz Yisrael. And he was learning in Rechavia, in Shaarei Chesed, and he was learning by Rav Shmuel Auerbach, in the Malos HaTorah Yeshiva. Tremendous. Rav Shmuel Auerbach was I don't want to go into the politics. He's been painted with a red pen, but he was a tzaddik. He was a Talmid Chacham. I don't know about his politics. He was an incredible person and a beloved Rebbe, right? And when I went to the shir, so first of all, I'll just tell you an interesting thing. I was there for 2 weeks, and I was in the Beis Medrash. And before he gave shir, he would walk out of the Beis Medrash and come back about 20 minutes later. So one day, somebody said, follow him, see where he's going. So he went to the mikveh. Every day before he gave shir, he went to the mikveh, right? But so I was walking with him one of the days, and he took me downstairs. He wanted to show me something. He took me downstairs in the Gra Shul. That's where his yeshiva was, in the Gra Shul. So downstairs, he takes me downstairs. There's an old Melamed teaching, about 50 kids, right? And he went in, and he went over to him, we gave him Shalom Aleichem. He says, this was my Melamed. He taught me Aleph Beis. And he's been teaching here, figure how many years he's been teaching Aleph Beis in the Gra Shul, right? This is Rebbe. This is Rebbe. V'hainu nami me'ach taima mishum yakra haTorah, because of the dearness of Torah to him, chavivut haTorah, kemo shedimu razal, the rabbis say in the Medrash, dargalim shabi. This is also a beautiful Medrash. You know, something strange about fish. When it rains, what do? They come out of the water to try to chop the raindrops, right? Says, what's the pshat? What's the limud from that? What's the musar from that, right? Dagim shebishash hagshamim yodim hey motzim roshem kedei lekabel od tipa. They stick their head out to get another bit of water, mipnei chavivut hamayim, because of the dearness of water to them, right? It happens to be a fact. That's what you learn from that, right? Mipnei sheyodim shehem chayim v'achayim tuluyim b'mayim. They know their life depends on chayim, on the water. Kemo kein, therefore matzinu b'Torah shechayim heim lemotzieihem. Torah is our life. V'hizminu lan min hashamayim oto hayanuka. So now the Rebbeinu Shalom sent his little boy to him, right? This little boy, from school, right? And Shalu Sheilot, and he asked him questions. Shebemet, Rabbi Zeir Taub ota halacha, and he made a mistake in that halacha, right? Rabbi Zeir made a mistake, and the child told him over the correct halacha from his Rebbe, Larot, to demonstrate to him, Ki bemet hu oseh kahogen lehit lamed mikol adam, that he did the right thing to come to this little boy to learn from everybody, even this little boy taught him a halacha. Beautiful idea. Then he concludes, ve'efshar lomar, we can say perhaps, lefichach dorsha razal pasuk zeh shel kara hi mipninim. Going back to our original question, why is Gershon the Bechor mentioned second? His brother Kahat was first, right? Dekoya Gershon v'Kahat. De lechura, you could say, v'havalei lidrosh pasuk zeh at chilat minyano shel Kahat. Should have said there at the beginning of Kahat, right? V'lo al shel Gershon, right? Aval be'emet efshar ledakdei ksat madua be'inyan Gershon. Ktiv gamheim. Gershon says, also there, if you look at the pasuk, he quotes the pasuk, right? Nasad rosh b'nei Gershon gamheim. They too. Also, right? They too. V'dima otam hakatuv le'minyano Kahat. He's attached to Kahat. Umemerari, the third brother, loktiv, he doesn't say that. Ela de efshar, the bnei Gershon, zachul avodot yoter chashuvot mibnei Merari, that Gershon was involved with more important things than Merari. Hainu gamken mibnei shekidmu et bnei Kahat, shel al atzmam lefichach dorshu alem pasuk zeh. Right? In other words, the bottom line is, because Kahat was carrying the luchot, the Aron, he came first. And even the Bechor, the natural firstborn, was given second place because Torah comes before. Okay, let's go to the next piece. This is from Rav Schwab, and this is from the Haftorah. Interesting Haftorah, famous Haftorah actually, the birth of Shimshon. Miraculously, Shimshon was born, and Shimshon was a Nazir, right? So the Haftorah says, Vayomer li. So here you have Shimshon was born from Manoach, was a very simple person, from Shevet Dan, right? The lowest of the tribes. His wife was an Isha Chachama. His wife was a very wise and pious person. He was a pious person also, but he was an Amoritz, right? He was not a school person, right? Then this is where Shimshon came from, right? Vayomer li. So he asked the Malach, He asked the Malach, we're going to have a Malach. He told him, you're going to have this Shimshon, he's going to be a Nazir. He's going to be a Nazir. All right, there's going to be a special Nazir. Nazir lives a life. He doesn't. He takes certain chumras on himself. Now, by the way, the Nazir is not the pshat that he recedes from society. He goes into a cave, right? He retreats from society. The Nazir has to attach himself to society. He has to live with Klal Yisrael. They have to see him. He has to do for them. They have to do for him. So it's not the pshat. It's to demonstrate that one could aspire to greater heights. But he's part of the. I always say, there was a time the OU. I don't know if they do it anymore. We used to have Torah retreats for various parts of the country. Torah retreat. So it always bothered me. Why? You go into the country, right? Like Paro, what Moshe asked from Paro, all he wants is 3 days to go out and have a Shabbaton, right? He wants to strengthen Klal Yisrael. I only want to go for 3 days, right? So why do we call it a retreat? Because Lahavdil, Elef, Alfa, Avdallah, this whole idea is from the Catholics. The Catholics have retreats. So really, it shouldn't be called a retreat. It should be called a forward. Right? So it's not a retreat, it's a forward, right? That's what it should really have been called, right? So that's what a Nazir is, right? But how do I raise a Nazir? How do I, simple me, Manoach, what kind of education? Today in education, one of the biggest challenges in education, we've done a lot, Baruch Hashem, for slower children, learning problems, and so on and so. We've done a tremendous amount in chinuch. For children, ADHD, whatever it is, ADHD, right? Special needs children, right? But where there is still work to be done is for the genius child. That raising and educating a child who's way ahead of the game is a big, big challenge. So here I'm dealing with, how do I raise a Nazir? So he goes to V'yomerli. He said to me, Vata, now I'll tell you how you raise him. The Nazir can't drink wine. Can't cut his hair, can't get to become close to a tamei mate, in touch, right? So he says to the father, this is what you have to do. Al tishti yayin, don't drink wine, v'shechar, or strong drink. V'al tachli kol tameya, and don't eat anything that could be tamei. Ki nazir elokim yiyeh hanar mina beten, because your son is going to be a nar from the beten. He's telling this to the wife. This is the Malach is telling this to the mother. V'yatar Manoach el Hashem, and Manoach davened to Hashem, Vayomer bi Hashem, Isha Elokim asher shalachta yavona od aleinu. Let this Malach who told us we're going to have, told my wife, please could he come to me again? V'yorunu ma nase lenar hayulad, and to teach me again what I'm supposed to do with this child, right? Second time, right? So now, there's a big question here, right? Hine. Rav Schwab. Tfilat Manoach bekan kasha lahavin. How do I understand Noach's tefillah? First of all, ki lo yada Parshat Nazir haktuva b'Torah. He certainly knew the Parsha of Nazir in Parshat Naso in this week's Parsha, right? It's very simple, straightforward psukim. V'im haya rotzeh ledat hilchot nazirut, and if you want to know the halachas of the Nazir, Shebet-Torah, Shebal Peh, in the Gemara, right? Ha'im hayu chaserim chachamim v'shoftim, where there were not chachamim, there were not chachamim and judges, people in the time of, this was the time of the shoftim. There were people that could have taught him, shaya yachol lishol tam. He could have asked them, levarer kol prat v'prat, to teach him, right, what the Nazir has to do, his child. Shara yada b'surat isha elokim. He knew that the Nazir actually did say, Shenazir Elokim yeh hanar. He told his wife that he's going to be a Nazir, right? V'im kein lama va'alma hitpalel shitgaleh isha Elokim elav shenit. Why did he ask him to come a second time? Ubioter kasha. I got a bigger kasha, he says. I got a bigger question. Shekishe ne'ater HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'tfilato. Hashem answered his question. He answered him, yes, I'm going to do it. He acquiesced. V'hofia isha Elokim pam shenit. And the Malach came a second time. Hare behashkafa rishona lo chidesh klum. if you look at it carefully, he didn't add anything. He told her, you have to raise this kid, he shouldn't drink wine, he shouldn't come close to, his hair has to grow, shouldn't come close to Tumah Mace, right? He didn't change anything from what he told his wife, right? Do everything that I told your wife. Don't drink wine, etc. Tishmor. Do everything I told you to do, right? Next paragraph, over the page, right? The next column. Here's the genius of what he says. What is happening here? Shafilu hayamanoach yodea dinin nizirut. Even if Manoach happened to know the laws of Nizirut, lo haita bakashato ela b'hilchot chinuch. He wasn't talking about what is this kid supposed to do? What does it mean to have a Nazir? He was asking him, how do I raise him? How do I protect him, right, in an open environment, in a non-Nazir environment? Shiratzah ladad, he wanted to know, ma naaseh lenar hayolad. How do we deal with this child? Dafka. Shahaya tamua be'enav, eich yitzaveh kodesh baruch hu la'av legadel u'lechanech ben Nazir. How are we supposed to do it? B'kedusha nosefet, with tremendous additional sanctity, and kedusha b'isurim, and prohibitions nosafim, additional al shar ha'am, from the rest of the people, right? How do we raise such a child? How do we keep him normal, right? How do we keep him normal, right? Im ein hu me'atzmo nazir, if he himself is not, right? I'm not a nazir. How do I do this? V'al zeh heshiv lo hamalach. So the Malach answered him, Shinachinami, you're right. Shigam ha'aba shel hanar. Also the father of this child, Hayulad, who's going to be born, Sarich lehitnaheg kemo nazir. He has to be a role model. Even though he didn't accept upon himself the vow of Nazirut, he don't have any wine in the house. V'zeu pirush hakatuv, and that's what the pasuk means. Mikol asher amarti el isha, whatever I told the isha, shetitnaheg bimei harayon, that already when she is in her pregnancy, tishmor, gam ata ha'av. You too, ki al pi hadiktu ki taken shetishmor hu loshen nekeva. Nistar, veloshen zachar is nochach. It's just grammatically, v'chein ha'pirush kol asher tzivitidha tishamer, right? Or you have to be tishmor. Now you have to do it. You have to do it. Gam ata manoach tishmor, not tishamer, are going on the isha, but you yourself have to do this for yourself, not your son, but you and your wife. She'ein be'efsharut lahadrich habanim. It's impossible to raise a child b'derech acheret, in a different way, mima shedorchin ha'avot, than the parents go, right? Like, do as I say, not as I do, right? That's a tragedy, right? That's what he's telling you. You have to set an example. Ki habanim mitchanchim mima sheroim eitzel ha'orim. It's a fact of life. Children learn from what they see by their parents, right? You can blame the school all you want. You can blame the teacher and the Rabbi all you want. But what's happening at home? V'im yomar ha'adam livno. But if a person says to a child, lahachzik be'eza hanaga tova, I want you to do this. I want you to go to minyan. I want you to learn Torah, right? I want you to she'ein hu be'atzma machzik bo, and the father himself doesn't do it. He can give him musar 100 days in a row, right? 101 times. Lo yatzliach. He will not be successful. You want to raise a Nazir? You want to know? You're asking me how to raise a Nazir? You go through the motions. It's not forbidden to do that, and that's what he's done. Tremendous lessons in life. Okay. One final piece here. This is after we do. Don't forget. And now, the third piece is from Rav Soloveitchik and Parshat Naso. One of the things we have in the Parsha is Birchat Kohanim. Now, there's a real theme in the Parsha. The fact that the Parsha begins with Nazir and continues with the Birchas Kohanim is not by accident, because these are both communities within the community of Klal Yisrael of higher spirituality who don't retreat from society, but again, they reach out to society. The Nazir setting an example, right? And the Kohen has this higher authority, but he gives it over, the Birchas Kohanim, to Klal Yisrael, right? So listen to this. And this is just a few psukim in the Parsha. You have the Birchat Kohanim that we're all familiar with, particularly in Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem. We have Birchat Kohanim every day, right? So, Ko tevarchu et bnei Yisrael. This is how you have to bless the Jewish people. Emor lehem. Emor with a vav. That's what he's going to talk about. It's a strong statement. Emor. It's not a one-time deal. Emor lehem. Rashi Pirush Emor. What does Rashi say? Kemo zachor Vishamor, by Shabbos, right? And more lehem zachor et Yom HaShabbat, shamor et Yom HaShabbat, right? V'nira lefaresh, I want to explain, the hevdel yesh, there's a great divide between zachor lebein zachor. Zachor is a one-time thing, right? Zachor, right? The zachor, hu loshen sivui la'asot eze pu'ula mesuyemet. Remember, zachor. Please remember, try to remember, do something. Tie a string around your finger to remember, which, by the way, I always had this feeling. Where did this come from? I don't know, today you can Google anything. Where does it come from to tie a string around your finger to remember something? I feel very strongly that it has to do with Parshat Tzitzit. Right? It's something that got out to the world from Tzitzis, because Leman Tizkaru, right? The whole mitzvah of Tzitzis is to remember the Torah, right? Right? I don't think it's a stretch. I really don't think it's a stretch. At what point historically did it happen? I don't know. But anyway, right? So Zechor is tie a string around your one-time deal, right? V'ilu hayaktov Zechor et Yom HaShabbat v'kodsho. If it would say in the Torah Zechor Shabbos, right? Keep it holy. Rak haya b'mashma nikadesh pam achat b'Shabbat. Once a week do Shabbos, right? But that's not the din of Shabbos. The din of sanctifying Shabbos is not just one day a week. The Ramban makes it very clear. Ubezeh haita nigmeret kol mitzvah. No, sir. Aval me'achar shekatuv zachor. Since it's zachor, it's a continuous. Hakavana lepeula hanimshechet bizman. It goes on all week, right? Mishamo shenizkor meshech kol hashavua et edyan kedushat v'chashivut Shabbat. We prepare for it, and this is what we say in the Mizmor Shel Yom at the end of davening every day, right? The Shir Shel Yom, right? The days of the week, classically, are not Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Those are days that are not. It's Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi to what? Yom Rishon b'Shabbat. Yom Sheni b'Shabbat. It relates the Shabbos that was and the Shabbos that's coming, right? And the Gemara talks about Hillel and Shammai, that if Shammai would find something, he'd put it away for Shabbos. Hillel had Midah Acheret, he waited till the end, something better is gonna come. But whatever it was, they're busy a whole week preparing, and all week we prepare for Shabbos, right? It's true. Right? I mentioned this on Shabbos Agodol. Since no one was here, I'll just tell you the nonsense that I said. Every day we prepare for Shabbos. Sunday we clean up from Shabbos, right? Monday we eat the leftovers from Shabbos. Tuesday we prepare a shopping list, what the menu is going to be. Wednesday we go shopping. Thursday we fight about whether we're going to invite your mother or mother-in-law or brother-in-law for Shabbos. And Shabbos is Shabbos, right? Okay, there you go. So, but really, seriously speaking, that's the mitzvah. To remember, every day there's a mitzvah to remember Shabbos. Right? Unbelievable, right? And in fact, last night, I thought that I was going to sleep. It was going to be Friday today. I forgot it's Thursday. So I was all nervous. Anyway, okay. I was set straight. Okay. So at Inyan Kedushat v'Chashivut HaShabbat. Ukeminagenu. So Shammai, he quotes Shammai Azaken. Shahaya maniach mana yafel ha'chol b'Shabbat. Everything that he found during the week, he would set it aside for Shabbos. V'chein kalul b'zeh sheyesh likrot yemei hashavua. And he says also, that's the pshat, that the days of the week, lefi minyanam liyom hashabbat. There counts for the day that was Shabbos, the Shabbos that we're leaving, and, right, v'lo b'shmot not the name hapratiyim could go on Sunday or Monday, he says, right, Rav Soloveitchik says. Now, by the way, I say that it relates to, we are reminded of the last Shabbos, the Kedusha from the last Shabbos has to stay with us, and the Kedusha, we have to anticipate the Shabbos that's coming, and halachically, it is that way. Because let's say, for example, you didn't make Havdalah. You have till Tuesday to make Havdalah. So you have till Tuesday is still related officially, halachically. You can make a bracha to the previous Shabbos. And as far as the 3 days toward the next Shabbos, you're not allowed to get on a boat within 3 days of Shabbat coming up. Now today is a whole different story, but I'm not going to go into it. There are different reasons, but that's a halacha, basic halacha, right? Because we're afraid that it's going to share his owning Shabbat, right? Okay, Ayin Divrei HaRamban, in parentheses, this is the Ramban, Parshat Yitro, right? Mashakosov Shema Likudei Torah. Okay, in different sources. Next paragraph. Now let's go why it says Emor. Tell the Kohanim, not Emor without a vav, but Emor. It's say to the Kohanim, this is not a one-time deal here, right? Now we can explain Kesher Mitzvah Pirchanom. What does this have to do with, from Zachor and Shamor of Shabbat, what does this have to do with the Emor to the Kohanim? Delo sagi bema sheyomru at nusach habrachot pam achat biyom. It's not enough that they say the bracha, Birchas Kohanim once a day. V'gemarnu. That's it, right? Ela kalul b'hach mitzvah pula nimshechet. But in this activity of benching the people, there's a continuum. Sheyit an yenu, sheyit v'yitasku tamid levorcham. That the Kohen has a challenge to constantly be on the level that I am the Rabbanu Shalom Shaliach to bless them, ubelibam, with his heart. Sarach shetiyah hagasha sherotzim levorcham. He wants to bless them. V'asher al kain omrim benusach habracha, something you do not have in any other bracha that we have for mitzvahs. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav etzivanu levarech et amo Yisrael. What does the Kohen say? Be'ava. Don't have this with any other mitzvah. Mashalom atzinu b'shar brachot birchot ha-mitzvah. Levarech asher kiddushanu laneach tefillin ba'ava, or leshe basuka, in the sukkah ba'ava, right? They don't have that. Tezeh sheyu rigshe ahavat achayim b'nei Yisrael, that the feeling, the emotion of the love that the Kohen has for the Jews, for b'nei Yisrael, belibam should be in his heart, mehava chelet atzmi meguf ha-mitzvah, that's part of the mitzvah. Right? Kamor, as we say, v'asher mahai taima nogu b'chutz, by the way, that's why in Chutz La'aretz, right? Shelo lisa kapeyem b'morachol. They don't we know that, right? El rak b'yom tov. We only do Birchas Kohanim on Yom Tov. The tov ayin hu yivorech. A person has to be relaxed. He has to be, right? V'kol yemot hashana kol trudim b'farnasatam. Everybody's busy with their parnasa. Their hearts are not where they're supposed to be. Maybe v'rak b'yom tov nimtzaim haKohanim b'matzav ruach shel simcha. Then on Yom Tov they have this simcha. But in Eretz Yisrael, I should can tell me Eretz Yisrael, we don't have our deals. Our problem, we have plenty of problems. But the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, still, it goes against the grain. The Kohen is more b'simcha in Eretz Yisrael, even with all the tsaras that we still have here, right? And you know what? And if I'm telling you an old wives' tale. They had this happiness thing, this organization that lists countries. Israel came number 5, I think. This is something number 5, which is like, this is some kind of, by the way, why number 5, why not number 1? So I did a little Google search, and this organization has to do with the United Nations. So they would never give us 1, right? Okay? So that's what he says, right? So that's Emor. I would add one other thing. You know, the Kohen, why Ba'ava? It's a challenge. Because the Kohen is involved with the lowest levels of society. He has to deal with the Mitzorah. He has to go into the house for tzaras. He has to deal with the mitzvah. He has to deal with people with tremendous tzaras, right? So he has to have that, be challenged with that mitzvah that he should, whatever he does, it should be be'ava. It should be be'ava. Okay. My pleasure.